back, llamas, to another music theory bite. In this video, we're going back to basics again to talk about major and minor scales, how to read them, how to write them, and as an added bonus, we're also going to talk about the names of the scale degrees. So if that sounds like something you want to learn more about, keep watching this video. For starters, we need to figure out what a scale is. At its very basic level, a scale is a succession of pitches in order, usually written from low to high or high to low. These are the things you practice on your instrument or on your voice. At a deeper level, a scale is a collection of pitches from which a composition is constructed. We can think of it as kind of like being the DNA of a piece. It gives each composition its own unique sound. At an even deeper level than that, a scale is a set of relationships between the tones in a piece of music. These relationships help to give the music direction. In tonal music, we usually use two scales, the major scale and the minor scale. And in the category of minor scales, there are three different types. We'll talk about those in a minute. We're going to learn how to write these using two methods. One of them I'm going to call the hard way, and the other I'm going to call the easy way. Let's start with major scales. Scales are associated with keys, so the name of a key is also the name of the scale that is used in that piece of music. The first scale degree, also called the keynote, or more frequently called the tonic pitch, is the same as the name of the key. So for example, if we were in the key of E major, we wanted to write an E major scale, E, the name of the key, is also the name of the tonic pitch. Now in tonal scales, every letter name gets used only once, except the tonic when it's duplicated up at the octave, and the letters go in succession. So in this case, we're going to start on E. The next higher pitch is going to be some sort of F, followed by some sort of G, followed by some sort of A, so on and so forth until we get back to the tonic pitch at the top of the scale, another E. Since every letter name gets used only once, you can go ahead and write the notes on each of the lines and spaces of the staff up to the octave, as I have done here. First, let's figure out the major scale the hard way. This requires you to have some facility with figuring out major and minor seconds. As long as you're quick at doing that, you should be able to do this. Major scales have the interval succession of whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. You could also think of it as whole step, half step, showing up twice, separated by a whole step. So in the example that you have before you now, E major, if we go up a whole step, the first of the intervals in a major scale, we end up at the supertonic pitch. A whole step above an E is an F sharp. We need to go up another whole step to get to the mediant or third scale degree. A whole step above F sharp is G sharp. Now we have our first half step in the scale. From G sharp, if we go up a half step, we get to the subdominant pitch, the fourth scale degree, which is the pitch A. Next, we go up another whole step to get to the dominant of the key, the fifth scale degree, and that pitch is B. Now we're ready for the sixth scale degree, which is called the submediant, and we go up a whole step from the dominant, which in this case, in the key of E major, will be a C sharp. Next we go to the seventh scale degree, which we call a leading tone, and that's a whole step above the submediant or sixth scale degree. In this case, the pitch would be D sharp. Now that we've written our leading tone, the next interval should get us back to tonic, and it should be a half step. So if we've done everything correctly, we can use this to double check and make sure we haven't made any mistakes along the way. A half step above a D sharp, getting us back to tonic, is an E. We're correct. Now we always want to check this by playing it on an instrument. So in this case, I'm going to play it on the piano. E, tonic, F sharp supertonic, G sharp mediant, A subdominant, B dominant, C sharp submediant, D sharp leading tone, E tonic. You've probably heard and sung enough major scales in your life that you can tell if a mistake has been made. Now I could do this going down, I just have to reverse the order of those intervals. So if I were to write a G major scale starting at the top, I write the G an octave below, and then I fill in all the lines and spaces so I have one note on each letter name, and then I just check my intervals. G down to the leading tone is a half step, so I should have an F sharp. Down a whole step to the submediant gets me an E. Down another whole step to the dominant gets me a D. Down another whole step to the subdominant yields a C. From the subdominant to the mediant, that's our other half step. C down a half step goes to B. B down a whole step to the supertonic is an A. And then, if I've done everything correctly, I should have a whole step between my supertonic and my tonic. A whole step below A is G. I double check that by playing it on the piano. G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. My scale sounds correct. Now let's see if we can do it the easy way. We're going to start the same way. We're going to write our tonic pitch, write all the notes up to the tonic an octave higher. Now, instead of figuring out all the intervals along the way, if we know our key signatures really well, then we can simply pull the accidentals from the key signature and put them on the correct pitches in the scale. So for example, if I wanted a D flat major scale, I write D flat up to D flat. I fill in all the pitches in between, and I know that D flat major has 5 flats, and those flats in order are B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and G flat. I transfer all those pitches, all those accidentals, onto the pitches in the scale, and then I play the scale to see if I have it correct. D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat. You'll notice that that worked just as well, and it was a little bit quicker to figure out. Now let's move on to minor scales. First, I'm going to teach you the traditional way to think about minor scales, the way that most music theory teachers teach it. And then I'm going to teach you another way to think about it, which I believe is a little bit better at explaining how minor scales actually work. The traditional way has 3 different forms of the minor scale. We have the natural minor scale, the harmonic minor scale, and the melodic minor scale. Natural minor scales have an interval succession of whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So if we were to start on the pitch A, again we write an A an octave higher and we fill in all the lines and spaces in between. We go up a whole step to get to the supertonic, and notice how scale degree 2 has the same name as it does in the major mode. A whole step above an A is a B. We now go up a half step to get to the mediant. A half step above a B is a C. We then go up a whole step to get to the subdominant. A whole step above a C is a D. And then we go up another whole step to get to the dominant. A whole step above a D is an E. Our second half step occurs between the dominant and the submediant. From E we go up a half step and we get to F. Now we have a whole step up to what would be the leading tone in a major key, but in the minor key we call it a subtonic. A whole step above an F is a G. And then to finish out the scale, from the subtonic we'll go up a whole step and that should get us back to our tonic. A whole step above a G is an A. So just to make sure I got this correct, I'm going to play it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Sure enough, that sounded correct. Now if I were using the easy method, I would remember that the key of A minor has no flats and no sharps, and it corresponds to the natural form of the minor scale. So I simply had to write just white keys between A, and that would get me the natural minor scale. If I wanted to write a harmonic minor scale, I would start with the natural minor scale, write that out, and then I make one alteration to it, and that is the subtonic, scale degree 7, gets raised a half step. So in this case, where I had a G as my subtonic, I raise it a half step, it becomes a G sharp, I now call it a leading tone, and I have a harmonic minor scale that sounds like this. Notice the extra wide interval, we call it an augmented second, between the submediant and the leading tone. If we happen to be in the key of B flat minor and we wanted to spell a harmonic minor scale, I start by writing my B flat natural minor scale. B flat minor has 5 flats, so B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat. Now that I have my natural minor scale written in the key of B flat, I simply take the 7th scale degree, the subtonic, and I raise it. The subtonic was an A flat. To make that a half step higher, I need to cancel out the flat and make it a natural. So my harmonic minor scale in B flat is B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A natural, B flat. The last form of minor scale is the melodic minor scale. The melodic minor scale differs from the other minor scales in that the direction that you're going matters. That is, we'll use different pitches on the way up than we use on the way down. So for example, if we were to take an F sharp melodic minor scale, we always begin by writing the natural minor scale that you see here. Once we have that written, then we will raise on the way up both the 6th and the 7th scale degree. So we'll take our D natural, the submediant, and we'll turn that into a D sharp, and then we'll take our E natural, the subtonic, and raise that to become a leading tone by making that an E sharp. On the way down, both of those scale degrees return to their lowered position. So E sharp returns to being a subtonic, E natural, and D sharp returns to being a submediant, D natural. You'll notice that on the way down, it looks identical to the natural minor scale. Here's what the melodic minor scale sounds like, both ascending and descending. This brings us to another way of thinking about minor scales. Let's listen to a quick piece of music. I had said just a minute ago that on a melodic minor scale we raise scale degrees 6 and 7 on the way up and we lower them on the way down. In this case, we're in the key of D minor, and as the scale goes down in the melody, you'll notice that the 6th and 7th scale degrees are both in a raised position. So what's going on here? Well, there are a couple possibilities. First, it could be an exception to the rule. But unfortunately, examples such as this are all over the place by great composers. That leaves the possibility that maybe our rule isn't correct, that we have a different rule that's governing when we raise and lower the 6th and 7th scale degrees. And this leads to a new way of thinking about minor scales. There must be something else governing whether we raise or lower the 6th and 7th scale degree, more than just direction. And since most people, when they're studying scales, haven't learned about harmonic function and harmonic progression yet, most of the time theory teachers kind of punt on this one and just teach you the direction rule, which really doesn't hold up when you start looking at real music. Instead of thinking about it in terms of direction, raise them on the way up, lower them on the way down, we'll need to think about them eventually in terms of harmonic support. When scale degrees 6 and 7 are played on top of a dominant function chord, they move into their raised position. All other instances, they stay in their lowered position. This leads to a new way of thinking about minor scales altogether. Instead of having 3 different forms of the minor scale, I prefer to think of them as being all one minor scale with 2 scale degrees that have 2 possible positions. I call them variable scale degrees. Scale degree 6 and scale degree 7 are variable based on harmonic function. This is closer to how music actually works. So why is it taught the other way? Well, it's easy to grasp, especially for beginning music theory students. It approximates what happens when you actually harmonize a scale, and most people don't know about harmonic function yet when studying scales. So let's summarize what we've learned today. A scale is a collection of pitches written out from low to high or high to low, which provide all the pitches that are used in a composition. It also shows the relationship between the pitches in a composition and the pitches within the scale. We'll get more into those relationships in a later video. There are 2 forms of tonal scales, major scales and minor scales. And some people think of minor scales as having 3 different forms to them: natural, harmonic, and melodic. I prefer to think of one minor scale with 2 variable scale degrees based on harmonic function. We also learned the names of the various scale degrees. The first scale degree is called the tonic, the second scale degree is called the supertonic, the third scale degree is called the mediant, the fourth scale degree is the subdominant, the fifth scale degree is the dominant, the sixth scale degree, whether raised or lowered, is the submediant, the 7th scale degree, when lowered, is the subtonic, and when raised, is the leading tone. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please like it and follow it. And please feel free to leave constructive comments below. Until next time, see you later.